I now call upon Dr. Victor Dzau to deliver the 147th commencement address of Boston University.
President Brown, Mr. Feld, graduating class of 2020, distinguished faculty, family, and friends, good afternoon. It's great to be back in Boston, especially at Nickerson Field, while I've watched some very exciting soccer games in the past. So go Terriers. I know you guys are going to have a great season, soccer, and especially your hockey teams. So I'm so honored to be here with you today in person. Congratulations to you, class of 2020. First thing first, let's all join in a much-earned round of applause for you. Come on, do better. There you go. I'd like to thank President Brown for bringing us back together on this glorious day to celebrate. I also had, it's true, a shout out to the entire VU community and especially your family and loved ones who have supported you in the past year of difficulty. They were there for you. So let's have a round of applause for them too. And a good one. Now, this is a day of celebration, and typically a commencement, by definition, about beginnings. However, I must acknowledge the obvious. Due to COVID-19, here we are, celebrating your graduation more than a year after you complete your studies. So perhaps an atypical commencement is fitting for you, class of 2020, because there's nothing typical about you. Your generation already seen its fair share of crises, a childhood marked by 9/11, an adolescence defined by 2008 financial crisis, and now an adulthood stamped by the greatest public health emergency in over a century. Pandemic has taken millions of lives around the world. It's chipped away at the very social fabric and has upended our sense of normalcy. COVID robbed you of a traditional senior year. Little did you know that when you left for spring break, you weren't coming back. You did not get to say goodbye or share 4 years of memories with your friends and classmates together. And you started a career in a world of disarray and uncertainty. So, although we're celebrating today, I'm sure you're still feeling anxiety about the future and some frustration and confusion about where to go from here. But here's the thing, graduates. I'm confident that you have what it takes to not only meet these challenges, but to overcome them. You've already demonstrated incredible resilience and fortitude. You have prevailed, and here we are together with each other today. But if history tells us anything, it is that there will be more crises and challenges in our future. The same is true in our personal lives. So I won't wish a crisis on anyone, but as painful as they can be, crisis setbacks can also present opportunities. If you can view adversity this way as a chance to learn, to grow, to emerge stronger and wiser, then we can face the future with great confidence. I'm here today because, like so many others, I too had to learn how to overcome obstacles in my life's path. Indeed, some of the twists and turns along my own path turned into incredible opportunities. President Brown invited me to share my, quote, successful journey in the hopes that it will help inform yours. And his invitation letter to me said, as an immigrant to Canada and then United States, you have impacted the lives of millions of individuals around the globe because of your work on ACE inhibitors that treat high blood pressure and heart failure. He goes on to mention my leadership at Harvard, Stanford, Duke, and now National Academy of Medicine. And he says my story is one that should serve as a model for you. Well, President Brown, you used the word success to describe my work, but success may look very different to different people. Success could mean researching cures for a devastating disease, or leading the fight for social justice, or pursuing your creative ideas, or achieving wealth. But whatever your definition, a common determinant of success is learning from your failures. So, indeed, each of my so-called success sprouted from seeds of adversity. When I was a researcher searching for answers in the lab, before I was a researcher searching for answers in the lab, I was a refugee searching for a home away from crisis. Before I was the head of a large health system at Duke, I was a trainee struggling with burnout. Nothing has come easily to me, but it is those very challenges that help shape my character and even presented some of the most unexpected opportunities in my life. So today, instead of focusing on my success, I want to talk to you about my failures, the twists and turns I encountered along the way. And of course, each one of you will follow a very different journey with your own ups and downs, and you define success differently. My story is one of an immigrant, but I hope by sharing my story, I can provide some useful lessons for navigating the road ahead for all of us. So let me start with lesson number 1. Keep going. Maybe you heard this famous quote from Albert Einstein. Life is like a bicycle. To keep your balance, you got to keep moving. And you know what? That encapsulates so well the first lesson I want to share with you today. Every one of us will face adversity in our lives. But as you are already learning, it's not about setbacks or failures. It's about how you respond to them, how you find meaning in them, how do you pick yourself up and find a way to keep going. The members of your class will always remember as the ones who had to go home in the middle of your senior year. When you left, you probably didn't even realize that was the last time you'll be together as undergraduate students at BU. So you know what it feels like to have something taken away from you suddenly and unexpectedly. In my life, I've experienced this in a big way. One of my earliest memories is from when I was 5 years old, when my family fled Shanghai following the end of the Civil War in China. We left in the middle of the night, leaving behind most of our possessions, our life as we knew it. We did not have time to say goodbye to our relatives and dear friends. It was very difficult. My parents took us to the rail station. I still can remember the sounds, a veritable symphony of chaos. Rail tracks screeching, children crying, and conductors shouting. Well, we were lucky. We were ultimately able to get on the overnight train to Hong Kong to escape the dangers. We arrived with very few resources. Our new home was nothing more than one room, no kitchen, no toilet, no beds. But for many of my neighbors, life at the time was full of suffering. They lived in squatter settlements on the hillside of Hong Kong. Their homes were made of cardboard that easily caught fire. It was hard to find clean water. And many illnesses such as tuberculosis, and they lived in the most abject poverty. Well, these were tough times, but they shaped my view of the world. It is the reason I question the way things are and why we can't accept status quo. It is especially when people are suffering. For me, this experience is what inspired me to want to be a physician. But guess what? Sadly, my grades were good, but not good enough to get into the only local medical school. So I left everything and everyone I knew and went to Canada for my undergraduate studies, hoping I would be admitted to medical school. Well, eventually, I did complete a grueling medical residency program in the United States, but in a language at the time that was still somewhat foreign to me, in a culture that sometimes I still didn't understand. Those early days of training were really difficult. I felt inadequate, insecure, and isolated. And I experienced burnout. Now, maybe you can relate to my experience because of what you just went through this past year, you probably felt insecure, uncertain about your future. You were grieving, and you were forced to reckon with these feelings alone. I know that many of your peers were feeling the same way. Well, during my residency, I felt very much like that. My wife happened to be quite ill at the time, and I felt I was letting her down. At one point, she was hospitalized 4 floors above where I was working, but sadly, I couldn't find the time to be with her. I felt guilty. Now, have you ever made a decision when you're really upset that you immediately regretted and could not come back? Well, that's what happened to me. I made an abrupt decision. I quit. I left my program immediately, but I immediately regretted it and tried to return. But by that time, I was told there was no spot for me anymore. Well, I felt like I made a huge mistake, but I was determined to fix it. I kept going. And eventually, I found another training program that would take me. And after some twists and turns, which I'll tell you in about a minute, I ended up at Brigham Women's Hospital, just up a mile or so from here. Now, all right. How is this relevant to you? Well, you too will face uncertainties in your work and your personal life. You have feelings of isolation or loneliness, and you could experience outright failure. But the common denominator is that whatever's thrown our way, we have to keep going. Even if it means taking some detours, we stay flexible and resilient and adapt as best we can. So failure, adversity is not a bad thing. Sometimes it can bring you opportunities too. That is if you're open to finding it. This brings me to lesson number 2. To keep going, you need to find your purpose in life. I know the pandemic really disrupted your college years. Many of you had to go home, finishing your degree from your childhood bedroom, isolated from your friends, your professors. Some of you really had difficulty, a difficult personal circumstance to deal with. I know it's a tough time, but you kept going. The secret is that it's a lot easier to keep going when you have a purpose or deeper meaning. So what motivated you? I suspect many of you, the determination to earn your degree was enough to keep you going. You found a purpose to graduate from college and move to the next stage in your life. But now that you've graduated, what will be your future purpose? Well, you have to find out what really matters to you. Some people find purpose through their work. Some are inspired by their relationship with others or by serving others, especially the underprivileged. A true purpose is an act of giving and receiving. Finding your purpose will help you just as much as it may help others. Some of you may be familiar with Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor who wrote a landmark book called Man's Search for Meaning. And he famously said, "Those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how." For me, my why has been a deep commitment to service and to make a difference. I want to do research to find cures for heart disease. I want to improve people's health and eliminate health disparities, which led me to Duke, which I served as 10 years as CEO of the health system. I want to be involved in global health and share the benefits of science and medicine with those underprivileged and underserved all over the world. That leads me to lesson number 3. Find people and grow people. Surround yourself with people who care about you, support you, and help you keep going. And make sure you give back in return. Ask anyone who has achieved a modicum of success in their lives, they no doubt would tell you they couldn't have done it alone. Ask yourself this question: could you have made it through the past 4 years, and especially last year alone? Think about all the people who supported you along the way, from your parents, loved ones who gave you unwavering support, to professors that took extra time to help you master something difficult, and to your friends who had always had your back. I certainly felt this way from the very beginning I saw how my parents make sacrifices for me and my siblings. They risk their lives to escape from China for us. They work hard to save money to ensure that we get education, including spending their savings to send me to Canada. Now, earlier I mentioned that I quit my residency program and couldn't return to it. It was a very difficult time, but two people came to my rescue. First, my wonderful wife, to whom I've been married now for 49 years. Thank you. She was ready to sacrifice everything to support me and suggested I volunteer to work for free at Brigham Women's Hospital. That's how it started. Then I had the fortune of meeting Dr. Eugene Braunwald, the legendary chair of medicine, who's willing to take a chance on me when I was an unproven young man from Asia. He was kind, generous, supportive. Not only did he teach me medicine, he taught me important lessons in life, for which I'm forever grateful. He became a lifelong mentor for me, and by the way, he did pay me for my work as a trainee. But that's why I feel so strongly about being a mentor myself and helping people grow professionally. And mentoring is not just about teaching. It's about caring. It's about giving unconditional support. Well, I couldn't have made it without mentors like Dr. Braunwald and many others. So graduates, cultivate mentors in your life. Never forget people who are there for you when needed the most. And make sure you're giving back in the same way. Be the person that others can count on when they need you the most. So this brings me to my last lesson. Keep caring about the world. Keep trying to make it a better place. Well, the last 20 months, COVID has revealed deep divides in our society. We have seen how COVID disproportionately affects communities along racial, ethnic, and socioeconomic lines. While most of us transitioned to remote work from the safety of our homes, many others didn't have the ability to do so, and they had to risk their lives on the front lines. Many people lost jobs, livelihood, and even homes. COVID has unmasked and aggravated inequity and injustice. I'll be the third person to cite Martin Luther King Jr. because he's a BU alum. And he said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Whatever affects, you can clap. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. While growing up as an immigrant and refugee, I can't help view the world this way. I've seen injustice, discrimination, unequal treatment, and suffering firsthand. And sadly, some of these same patterns are repeating themselves during this pandemic. So it's happening in the United States, it's happening everywhere. I'm deeply concerned about the equity issue. And I'm deeply concerned about, was that a plane? A train. I'm deeply concerned about the global inequity in COVID vaccine access. Do you know of the 6.2 billion doses of COVID vaccines administered worldwide? Only 2% of people in low-income countries has been vaccinated? I mean, that's unacceptable. We can't end this pandemic anywhere until we end it everywhere. Thank you. You know, if we allow the variants of the virus keep emerging, spreading, we may end up in a situation where vaccines don't protect us anymore. So I ask you to step up and get involved. In my current role as the National Academy of Medicine president, I've been deeply engaged on this issue, both in the US and globally. I've been engaged with the Global Preparedness Monitoring Board, COVAX, you might have heard this, the Global Collaboration for COVID Vaccines, and work with national leaders, including the Biden administration, to ensure equitable access to COVID vaccines, treatment, and testing. My own experience has only reinforced the urgent need for solidarity and collective action to end the inequity and devastation of this pandemic. Apathy is a luxury we simply can no longer afford, especially when we face big global challenges such as pandemic and climate change. We have to work with each other. We have to cooperate with each other in our communities and across borders. We have to keep caring. So, class 2020, let me leave you with this. As we ride our bicycles through life, let us remember, to keep our balance, we must keep going. Even if that means go over some bumpy patches or changing your path. To keep going, we must always have our destination in mind, find our passion and our purpose. To get there, we need each other, our families, our friends, and all our fellow human beings, near and far. And we should all work to make the world a better place. So, resilient class of 2020, I have great hopes for your future. Today is your opportunity to celebrate, to get that special moment back you lost in 2020. Let's enjoy this very special day with your families, with your classmates and friends, and reflect on your 4 great years at BU with fondness, love, and pride. Congratulations again.